to the show. This the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What is up, you guys? Dana White's Contender Series Week 4. Coming off a Dana White's Contender Series card that delivered in a major way. You guys got to be excited for these cards week to week. Of course, taking place Tuesday nights. I'm recording this video here Friday afternoon. Once again, trying to get this video out to you guys as quick as possible. Should have this video uploaded by Friday night. Of course, we do have some drinking to attend to, so there'll be a little moment in between the time I finish recording this, by the time I can edit and upload this video. I am excited for this card. As I said, that this show continues to deliver, and I expect nothing less with this card that we're looking at for this upcoming Tuesday. Some real legit talent scattered all through the card. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of other promotions out there that have been weeding talent to the UFC throughout the years. But in my opinion, at this point, there's nothing like Dana White's Contender Series as far as the top level fighters making their way into the octagon. I truly believe that. And a prime example of that is a fighter like Bo Nickel, who we had the pleasure to watch perform this past Tuesday in the main event spot on the show. Delivered in a major way. It was pretty ridiculous. If you guys didn't note, I made a post here. He was at one point in time a minus 3,333, let's just say 3,333 favorite, 3,333. Hopefully I got that right and didn't say 5 threes, but you guys catch my point here. He was a major favorite, and he actually settled in as a minus 5,000 favorite. To my knowledge, that's the biggest favorite in the history of, I don't know about if MMA going into a fight, not live betting odds, of course, but for sure in regards to fighting under the UFC banner, Dana White's Contender Series or the UFC. But check this out. If you guys didn't take note, tonight on the Bellator card, Bellator 284, we have Patrick Downey who's fighting, and he's coming in as a minus 7,500 favorite. And he's fighting a guy that's 0-3, and I think that has a little bit more to do with it. But of course, Downey, a stud wrestler, makes his pro debut. And these are some ridiculous lines. These are boxing type lines. You really haven't seen this in MMA throughout the years. It's pretty crazy, and it's pretty intriguing and interesting to me. But again, real quick, Bo Nickel delivered in a major way. I'm very excited to see him fight on this show. Hopefully this season he gets another fight, and then we'll get the contract by the end of the season here, and then he'll have a fight hopefully in the UFC very soon. And I expect him to wreak havoc in the middleweight division, which you guys know I feel it's very shallow. I'll have a video coming at you guys very soon. I want to make a bold prediction, and I want it on the record, so we'll be getting to that. Stay tuned. A lot of new content's going to be coming here at the channel, and you're going to see a whole new setup moving forward. We got the green screen coming and all that, so excited for a lot of that stuff. We definitely got to mention the translator over there in Dana White's Contender Series. This guy is stealing the show. I really don't think that Eric Silva even won that fight this past Tuesday. I really felt like the translator actually won the fight, as you see the look of disdain in Eric Silva's face as the translator just was putting on a show on the mic, man. Really funny guy. Had the hair dangling in his eyes. He was giving it the little wiggle, and some fun stuff there. But all right, I won't ramble too much more. We're going to get into this fight card here. Please like this video if you guys have not already. Please subscribe to the channel if you guys have not already. Catch me on all my social media platforms, on Instagram at MMA Fortune Teller _. You can catch me on Twitter at the MMA Teller. And of course, you can catch me right here on YouTube. So with that all being said, it's time to jump into the first fight on the card. Let's get into it. So one of 2 lightweight bouts taking place in the card. First and foremost, we have Nazim Sadykhov taking on Ahmad Hassanzada, the Afghanistan fighter, the Afghani, taking on the fighter fighting out of Brooklyn, who we'll get to what his background is in a minute. I forgot the country he kind of represents. But again, fighting out of Brooklyn, you see him putting in some work over here with the steamroller Matt Favola. And I think that's a very positive sign from him, because I do feel that his striking is pretty solid, and as long as he keeps working on his ground game, he will round out as a solid fighter. I want to continue to see him work on his takedown defense and maybe mix in some offensive grappling as well. Matt Frevola is definitely the type of fighter you want to surround yourself with. Looking to be in phenomenal shape here, about 4 weeks out from the fight. As we break down tape on him, more of a striker. You take a look at some of the recent work he's done, coming off 2 knockouts, and then we had that rear naked choke before that, and then a decision, and then a knockout, fighting over at CFFC, fighting over in Fury, some reputable and respectable regional promotions there. When I break down tape on him again, he definitely seems to be more of a striking-based fighter, was just working to stuff those takedowns. A lot of his opponents were going in on his hips, trying to get him down to the mat, and he seemed pretty well-rounded with his takedown defense. There's some room for work for sure, but as long as he keeps working on that, he'll be a solid fighter. 28 years old. His opponent, Ahmad, I feel is definitely more of a grappling fighter, so I do feel that this fight is a little bit of a striking versus a grappler matchup. As you see, Ahmad hitting the pads, not too impressed here. If we're being quite honest, if he came at the teller with those types of combos, I'm definitely slipping and I'm ripping and I'm cracking him with the left hook. I don't know, poking some fun, but not too impressed with how I see him hitting the pads, and wasn't too impressed with his striking from the tape that I saw as well. Down on the mat, I mean, he definitely knows what he's doing down there. And again, I'm sure he's working on his striking. It'll come around. But I do favor Nazim to have the edge on the feet. I really do feel that if he keeps this fight standing, that he will have the edge there. He's a southpaw. He's kind of tricky on the feet. He's a little bit unorthodox, and I could easily see him giving plenty of problems to Ahmad on the feet. We take a look at what Ahmad's been doing, coming off that decision win over at LFA against James Wilson, rear naked choke victory over Rashid. He had a knockout over Abdul, which again, down on the mat, this was, I noticed even some of the finishes he had that weren't through submissions or through ground and pound or working, doing damage down on the mat, controlling his opponents with his BJJ. He's rangy, he's long. We don't have a height and reach on Nazim, but Ahmad is 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. He's rangy. I am going to be taking Nazim to win this fight. I just feel that Nazim will be able to stuff those takedowns, and I feel that he'll get the better of the striking. And, Ahmad does have a knockout loss on his record. I think that Nazim is live to get that knockout. Not certain that happens one way or another. I think he gets the job done, but I'm not necessarily certain he gets that finish. It's possible. Of course, Ahmad only has 1 loss on his resume, and that was due to a knockout. In his very young career, we've seen him put out once before. Nazim has that type of power and striking, I do believe. And we'll see how that fight plays out. But I'll take Nazim to get the job done. And please excuse me. I know you guys can't see the odds as I pull this up. There's a little bit of an error with the website right now. We will have that fixed. But Nazim is a -260 favorite with the comeback on Ahmad at +220. And again, you could see the line scrolling there on the bottom as well. So Nazim at a -260. He's a pretty solid favorite here. So I think people were seeing a lot of what I saw as well. He's the better striker. He's very physically fit. He's very strong. He should keep this fight on the feet, and he should get the job done. Hailey, Cowan taking on Cláudia, Leite, the Brazilian. This is an interesting one here, which we will get to the betting line here in a second. I found it pretty interesting. Hailey, Cowan, she's coming off a victory, but before that, she did take a pretty ugly loss, in my opinion, where she got caught with the guillotine submission by Kaylee Clayton, who was 1-2 at the time. At the very best right now, she's 2-2. Was not too impressed with the way Hailey Cowan looked in that fight and the way that she stuck her neck in there for that guillotine. The teller's always licking his chops when he sees a fighter pulling off the guillotine. Just bring me back to my heyday where I was pulling off that guillotine choke left and right. Hailey Cowan definitely lacking with her BJJ defense down there, and seems to be more of a grappling-based fighter. I'm not impressed with what I've seen from her on the feet with her striking. She's physically fit, seems to be stout and strong. As you see her throwing a little karate type kick. I don't think she wants to do that because she shouldn't even be working that kick. As I was breaking on tape on her, she was rolling around the cage like crazy, losing her balance, falling, doing all types of rolls around the cage, and really put herself in vulnerable positions. In fact, that's how she ended up getting caught with that guillotine, was from her constantly falling, getting up, and kind of being a little bit disoriented, and she stuck her neck right in there. So I would really prefer her not to even throw that kick. Maybe work on her boxing a little bit more so, and try to use that type of strategy. Just some advice from the teller. Her opinion, her opponent, the Brazilian Cláudia, is more of a grappling-based fighter from what I see from her. Her jiu-jitsu looks pretty good, actually. If you ask me, it looks pretty good. I think that she's way more than live to pull off a sub here. If Hailey has shown to make a mental mistake like that, or just get a little reckless and get caught with the guillotine that she got caught just 2 fights ago, and then based on the work I've been seeing Cláudia put in, I think Cláudia is well polished with her BJJ. She shows beautiful control down there. She's not reckless. If she gets on top, she'll definitely hold position. I could see that happening in this fight. I could see her holding position and solidifying rounds. She's working on her striking. It's not the best. I'm interested to see how they look on the feet as they square off. I think it could play out pretty evenly. And again, Hailey Cowan coming off that rear naked choke victory in her last fight. But before that loss, she also had a very close fight over an LFA. She had that split decision fight against Brittany Cloudy. That was a very close fight as well. Cláudia is younger. She's only 25 here. I think that she has a lot more room for growth, and I think she has a lot more potential as a fighter. The one thing that I wasn't crazy about is, yes, she is undersized. But even with that size advantage Hailey has, she's just a little wild in there, a little bit, a little unpolished for my liking. And I'll take Cláudia here, especially at dog odds. As we get to the betting odds here, Cláudia Leite is going to be a plus 155 underdog with the comeback on Hailey Cowan at minus 180. I thought that line was interesting, and there's some action coming in on Cláudia right now. Of course, these odds are very, very premature right now, as a lot of action comes in on Dana White's Contender Series around Sunday, Monday. I would not be surprised if we see Cláudia's line close the gap there towards Tuesday night. So especially for all you sharps out there that are listening to the teller, getting your advice, I would expect to see that line close. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that this is the fight I would want to target and put big type of money behind, but from a betting standpoint, you're definitely getting more value on Cláudia, in my opinion. For Hailey to come in as a favorite, I guess some people know some things about her in the gym or whatnot. Maybe she has some promise, but as far as on tape, not impressed. So yes, I do have Cláudia Leite to win the fight, and I'll take her by submission. Now, this fight is the fight that I'm anticipating most upon this card. Jack Cartwright versus Jose Johnson. Jose Johnson, of course, he has a reputable name. He was a big-time prospect coming into his first fight in Dana White's Contender Series. Of course, he did drop the ball, and he's went out. He's done some work since losing that fight on the show. He is 3-1. We'll get to his losses here in a second. His opponent, Jack Cartwright, he is the champion over from Cage Warriors, or he was the champion, depending on how you want to look at that now, if he gets a contract here or what goes on. But a guy that is very tough. Back to Jose Johnson. We talked about those 2 losses. Let's take a quick look at those 2 losses. Of course, he lost on the show against a very, very talented Ronnie Lawrence, who got a contract and who's since shown that he's a proven UFC caliber fighter. I've been very impressed with Ronnie Lawrence. In that fight, Ronnie was ragdolling Jose Johnson. And Jose Johnson was a big favorite in that fight, if you guys remember. That was a fight where Ronnie Lawrence really, really made a name for himself. And like I said, has continued to make a name for himself. Jose went out, got a victory over Dre Miley, 7-3, decent record there. Mana Martinez got the knockout over Jose Johnson in the next fight. You guys know Mana Martinez. He's also fighting in the UFC, and in fact, just went to war with Ronnie Lawrence. Both these guys just fought, and they put on a hell of a show, showing that they're very talented fighters. Of course, Mana took the L there, but Mana actually landed a big shot on Ronnie in the 3rd round, if you guys remember. 2 talented fighters, and Mana got that knockout over Jose Johnson, which you want to take note. Jose Johnson is a striker first. He's a striking first type of fighter, and also showing to be vulnerable at the feet at times. They're taking a brutal knockout. If you want to pull up his other losses way back in the day, we won't go too much into that. Had some early losses, but Johnson is a solid fighter here, and has since went out there and got 2 finishes in his last fight. The Mo Miller fight, I want to talk about the Mo Miller fight here real quick for a second. In that fight, he was taken down early and showed to be a little bit vulnerable once again with this takedown defense, as we saw in the Ronnie Lawrence fight. The thing that I did like to see, though, is that he actually ended up pulling off a triangle choke. And even before the triangle choke that he caught later on when he was taken down again, earlier in that fight, he was able to get back up to his feet and use some of his striking. So you want to see him continuously working on his get-up game and his takedown defense for sure. He's a quick, a quick striker. You see him throwing spinning kicks here, spinning attacks. He will throw those in the cage. He'll throw some spinning back kicks, throws a nice calf kick, decent boxing. He's an athletic and quick fighter, so he can do damage on the feet. But then we got his opponent here, Jack Cartwright. I've been very, very pleased to break down tape on this guy here. Jack is an absolute moose. He's a bull. He goes forward in all of his fights. He's got the little pigtail waving in the back. I mean, it's just an absolute pleasure to watch. When you watch his fights, man, I'm telling you, he brings the fight and he looks for the knockout. This fighter right here, this is the type of fighter that Dana White, he goes nuts for. He foams out of the mouth for. This is the type of guy that is meant for a show like this. I guarantee you he brings the fight. And so does Jose. I think this has all the makings to be just an awesome fight Tuesday night. I'm really excited for it. As I said, this is the main fight I'm looking forward to. Jack Cartwright, let's just talk a little bit about what he's been doing. Again, he's undefeated, 10-0. He is the Cage Warriors champ, the Cage Warriors bantamweight champ. Now he's coming off an interesting fight, right, where his opponent was DQ'd for repeated headbutts in the 4th round. But before that, arm triangle choke, went to a decision. Then we have a couple first-round knockouts in a row there, and against respectable opponents. Check out the resumes on these fighters that he's going to war with. Of course, he's fighting for, he's fighting at the top tier of Cage Warriors. We know Cage Warriors has some legit fighters, fighting some respectable guys here. As we take a look at records, 6-2 Scott Malone knocked him out. Saw that fight. Marco Kevic, 12-2. Manuel Belish, 15-6. 9-1. Gerardo Fanny. I think there's some respectable opponents here. Even in that last fight against Sylvester Miller, 9-3 opponent. He's been in there with some legit talent. And here's the thing. I think that either of these men have the potential to land a big shot or to get the better of the striking exchanges. I truly do believe that. They both showcase some solid striking. The X factor to me is the fact that I think that Jack Cartwright may have an edge in regards to the wrestling. We've seen Jose struggle before, getting taken down and whatnot. I could see Jack getting some takedowns in this fight and really solidifying some rounds if somebody doesn't land that big shot first and foremost and really impact the fight with the big shot. I will be picking the dog here, Jack Cartwright, who's going to be a little bit undersized. And I want to talk about something real quick as we pull. I'm going to tell you the line real quick. So Jack Cartwright right now is a +120. Jose Johnson is a -140, a slight favorite with a little bit of action coming in on Johnson. People know about him. They respect his name. But I think most importantly, Johnson has the athletic stature. He looks more fit and whatnot. He's rangy. Then you got Jack, who doesn't look the most physically intimidating and imposing. But when you watch him fight, he is. And he really looks to headhunt. And he's a fun fighter to watch. I'm going to pick the dog there. Like I said, I'm going to pick the dog, the +120 dog, and Jack Cartwright, the former champion. I think this fight can definitely go either way. It's a tough fight, but more value on Cartwright, in my opinion. More factors for him to get the job done, and he just seems like he's as tough as a bull. I like this fight. But just be wary because, like I said, Jose Johnson's only 27 years old. He's a promising fighter, and he's rounding out his game. Seeing him pull off that submission off his back as well, which is one of his weak points, right? Being taken down or being controlled with his back on the mat, showing to have some new elements of danger from there. And again, he's talented on the feet, but give me Jack Cartwright. Claudio Ribeiro taking on Iván Valenzuela. We have the Brazilian taking on the Mexican. Two warriors here will go to battle in the middleweight division. Claudio Ribeiro, you want to talk about a warrior, go break down some of this guy's tape. This guy goes in there and looks to take you out, looks to flat out take you out. He's a headhunter, carries some big power. We've seen it translate into some finishes. Take a look about what he's been doing recently. Knockout there over Keles Albuquerque. I believe it's Albuquerque, huh? Take it easy. I mean, I think it really is. His last name is Albuquerque, a city in Arizona, right? Or New Mexico. I think in New Mexico, excuse me there. But knockout over Marcus Vinicius. Knockout over John Gregory, knockout over Mosa Rocha, knockout over Tiago Lopez. I mean, I think you guys are catching on to what's been going on with Claudio. He goes in there and he knocks people out. Watch the tape that you can pull up on him on YouTube. Every single fight, he's going out there and he's straight up looking for the knockout, and he's brutal with his power. Carries some big power. Throws from the hip a little bit, can definitely work on his technique. But he's a very powerful and strong individual. that goes in there. Again, he goes in there to finish the fight. He is a Dana White's Contender type of fighter. There's a reason why they scouted him and they got him on the card here. An absolute treat to watch. Would like to see him work on his conditioning, I think, a little bit, and want to see him come in a little bit more physically fit than the way that he's looked in some fights, and it looks like he is coming into this fight in good shape. There was a couple fights where he looked like he was carrying a little bit of pudge, but looks to be good going into this fight. Not only is he a devastating boxer and striker, seems to be putting in a lot of work with his jiu-jitsu as well, which is definitely a solid thing to see. If you follow him on IG, you'll see him definitely putting in work over on the mats and whatnot. At least he's trying to evolve as a fighter. Looks like he is a white belt still, but you want to see him working on that. And if you look at his posts, he puts a lot of posts with him and gi and whatnot, working on his jiu-jitsu, and that's what you want to see, at least. All right, so his game should be rounding off there. But the thing is, this fight should be a striking matchup. I don't expect to see this fight really go down to the mat, so I'm not too worried about that. His opponent here, Iván Valenzuela, is a fighter that really likes to throw down on the feet, favors his boxing very much. In my opinion, Iván is actually the more technical boxer here. A little bit more calm and composed in there, a little bit more patient, searching for the counter shot a little bit more so. I've been very back and forth on this pick, okay? I'll get to the betting line right now. Right now, as I film this Friday afternoon, it's a pick 'em. So this is straight up whoever you want to win this fight. At first, I was going to go with Iván here. I was going to take him based on the fact that he's a little bit more technical, and I could see him potentially piecing up Claudio as Claudio looks for that big shot, and maybe Claudio gets a little messy in there and Iván's a little bit more polished up there. But you know what? The more I broke down tape on Claudio, he seems to have that it factor, and he carries some serious power, and I could just foresee him just putting on one of those vintage Dana White's Contender Series performances where you're watching the fight and it just looks like a straight up brawl, and you just see that big shot land and you see the opponent get hurt. I could see Iván getting hurt. Iván is 8-1. His only loss came by a decision, so he's never been put out, but he's only had 9 professional fights. You know, every dog has their day. I could see him getting knocked out here. I wouldn't bank on that, but because he does show to be tough. And you know Mexicans, man, they're tough, man. They could take a shot, and he's one of those types of fighters. But Claudio, he throws some serious power into his shots, and he will be looking for the knockout. I'm gonna pick Claudio Ribeiro to win the fight, and I'm gonna say he gets that knockout, which is it's a little iffy there. Like I said, he'll be looking for that knockout, especially early on. He'll have some real steam behind him, but Iván is very technical, he's very defensive, and he looks like he could take a shot from what I've seen, so it's not necessarily just a given or a layup that Ribeiro's going out there and getting a knockout. This is a tough fight, but I'm going to pick Claudio Ribeiro, the Brazilian, to get the job done. Here we go in the main event, the second lightweight bout taking place in the card. Paull taking on Esteban Ribovics. Go Ribovics, El Gringo, the Argentinian fighter, only 26 years old, has shown to have a lot of promise. He's 10-0. As a pro. Paull 11-3 as a pro. Recently fighting over in the Golden Ticket GTFP. I was surprised to see that he hasn't been fighting over in Cage Warriors. You think a fighter of his caliber over from that side of the pond over there would be fighting over in Cage Warriors, but a lot of fights on these small promotions that I wasn't really too familiar with, if I'm being honest with you guys. Golden Ticket promotions as well. Excuse me if you guys are familiar with them, but I wasn't really super familiar with those promotions. If you look through his resume, you'll find a couple scattered opponents that have decent resumes, but nothing too impressive here. And then you take a look at his opponent who's 10-0. Let's just talk about their resumes real quick. 10-0, taking out guys. Well, maybe not the most respectable records either, especially early on. I mean, some of the bigger victories, Javier Becerto at 17-6, and then Jose Zaraz, he knocked him out in the 3rd round as well. But other than that, not a lot of big names there, not a lot of really reputable resumes there. But he's a very respected fighter, and of course, it's going to be a little bit partly due to the fact that he's undefeated. People love seeing that O and the loss section there. But other than that, Esteban has shown to be a well-rounded fighter. This is a guy that has found the mark with his left hook and his right hook, really. He loves to throw those little step-in awkward hooks, and he's clipped some fighters. He's put them out, comes in phenomenal shape, as you see him here. Has a jiu-jitsu game, has a grappling game. I've seen him definitely do work down on the mat. I've seen him on his back, literally ripping at Kimuras, reversing his opponent over his shoulder, getting on top of them. I've seen him attacking with a couple different submissions. He's a well-rounded fighter. That's really a good way to explain the type of fighter he is. He's a well-rounded fighter. And he does show some promise. His opponent, Paull, in my opinion, is a little bit more of a power puncher, a fighter that looks to go out there and get that knockout. He favors his boxing. I've seen him taken down in a few of his fights, which I wasn't really crazy about the way he was taken down. But in some of those fights I'm talking about, he did work up back to his feet and ended up getting a knockout victory. So, I mean, he's a tough dude. As you guys see here, he is deaf. Sending a message to Dana White, as you guys just saw there. It's pretty cool. It's kind of reminiscent to Matt Hamill. If you guys remember Matt Hamill, Matt the Hammer Hamill, somewhat of a legend in the game. For you new fans, you guys probably don't even really know about Matt Hamill, but for all you old school fans, you know about Matt Hamill, the only man to take out John Bones. So obviously that was that DQ, but Matt Hamill really was a tough fighter, and he really used to reign some ground and pound. But again, back to Paull. I like his boxing. I like the power that he carries on the feet. I think he's definitely live to land a big shot here against Esteban. In fact, I'm actually going to favor Thomas's striking. I think I'm going to slightly favor his boxing and his striking, although Esteban has shown promise there as well. He looks good. But I think that I'm going to give the power edge to Paull, and just looks a little bit more crisp on the feet, in my opinion. The thing is, I do believe that Esteban is just the more well-rounded fighter. I could easily see him mixing it up on the feet, getting a takedown and working, doing some work down there. On the feet, I could see it playing out somewhat evenly. The thing that I like about Esteban, is that he has shown to be very tough. I've seen him engage in some wars and just eat shots and just stays very calm and composed, and then inflicts his work after he takes what he takes. He comes in and inflicts his work and really puts it on his opponents, and was able to break his opponents. The fights that I pulled up in those situations, he was able to eventually even break them, which I really liked. He seems like he's one of those fighters that's just really mentally strong and very confident, and it's almost like he knows what he's eventually going to do in there. And I could see these two fighters going at it, and I could see Esteban being the fighter that kind of takes over the longer the fight goes and really starts to pick up the volume, and he'll be a little bit more light on his feet, maybe not putting as much power into his shots, but getting the job done there. And Esteban, he's a -350 favorite with a comeback of +285 on Paull. That was a little surprising to me. I understand the respect that going towards Esteban's way. I get it, but that line's high as far as I'm concerned. I think the value is definitely more so on Paull, and I would expect that line to come down a little bit towards Paul's way, in my opinion. But maybe not. Maybe people really fall in love with Esteban and what they see, and they really steam him. But I would say that the value is on Paull and in the main event, and I think this has all the makings to be a very fan-pleasing fight. All right, guys, so that's going to wrap up the card. Hopefully this helped you guys get a slight edge on this card from a betting standpoint. Appreciate all you new guys coming around to the channel that have been checking out the videos, hitting that subscribe button. It means a lot to me. Hit that subscribe button, because you guys are going to be amazed at the new content that's going to be coming here on the channel. I know it's been a work in progress. It's been taking some time, but like I said, some big things coming. We have the green screen coming. I'm going to have a whole new look with the channel, and a lot more content coming to you guys, a lot more live videos coming up in the near future. I'm working on a lot of stuff, so if you guys hang around, you're going to really see one of the biggest channels in regards to MMA here on the internet blossom in front of your eyes. So hang around with me, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on your way out. It helps me a lot. Catch me on all my social media platforms, and appreciate you guys more than you know. Signing out. Tell it.
Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.